Ladies and gentlemen, this is Brother K live from the front lines in Boston, Massachusetts at Massachusetts General Hospital. We're honored to be here with Dr. Ronald Goldman. We will talk to him in just a minute or two. I want to introduce you to the scene here in downtown Boston at Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, there's David Atkinson over there. Daniel Bryce. There's Mike Hackett over across the street. We've got more people down the street. I can't see them right here. Here's Christina Love, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Ronald Goldman. He has done, and he's brought out his book. And we're going to talk to him in just a second. I'll reverse the camera so that we can pick up the audio well. There's a lot of noise down here. Circumcision, the Hidden Trauma by Dr. Ronald Goldman. And ladies and gentlemen, I should also say that Dr. Goldman was the only American invited to testify before the European Parliamentary Commission that debated circumcision some 5 or 6 years ago. I believe it was 2014 or 15. But so let me reverse the camera, Ron Goldman, and I will come around and thanks, Ron. Thanks for joining us here, joining Bloodstained Men on the Front Lines. We are on the New England tour. And Ron, I think to start off this interview, I was talking to you informally, and I thought, let's go live because you have so much to say, clearly, and you're working on another book right now. We'll talk about all of that. But Ron, I asked you this simple question. Why has the American psychiatric community refused to pick up on this issue?
I think there's a few reasons. One is, if they're circumcised, they're personally affected. They're personally traumatized. And trauma is very serious. It involves repressing. That means keeping out of consciousness overwhelmingly painful feelings. And we do this in order to survive and to live our lives without being distracted by these overwhelming painful feelings day after day. So if they were to recognize circumcision as harmful and traumatic, that would mean they would be recognizing, for those who are circumcised, their own hidden traumas. And again, we have natural resistance to recognizing our traumas. That, again, is how we survive. So those are some of the personal reasons. There's also the professional reasons. Here we are, 2022, and they haven't recognized circumcision, which has been going on for many decades in this country. If they were to suddenly change their professional views on this, that would be an acknowledgement that they've been wrong for all these decades. They would be criticized, probably on both sides. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Or what do you mean? This can't be right. So they'd be opening themselves up to a lot of professional criticism. It's easier, it's safer from a personal and professional perspective to keep quiet about this. And I think those are some of the reasons why they do it.
Ron, and I'm just going to interrupt with questions, but I don't want to break your general judgment. But Ron, it really is a pathetic testimony to the corruption of human nature.
It is, but again, it's important, even connected with circumcision, that we have compassion for people, regardless of their behavior or what they say. Because, again, if they're circumcised, they're in extreme, unrecognized, repressed, traumatic pain. Okay, so we're all doing the best we can based on our histories. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Let's not attack anybody here. I know I have compassion for people who are angry about this. Certainly, some growing number of circumcised men are.
And you've got testimony on your website. Sure. Tell our viewers how they can see your website.
Yeah. Our website, which is the nonprofit organization Circumcision Resource Center, is at circumcision.org.
And you have testimony on that from angry men. So
right.
you understand the anger out there.
Yeah, I have compassion for men who have deep feelings about circumcision. And it's important that those men speak up, because if people don't speak up, nobody's going to be aware of how emotionally affected, very negatively affected, circumcised men are.
Ron,
yeah, go ahead.
So we were talking earlier, and I asked you, how did you become aware of this issue? And you just have a great story, interesting story. So tell us what. Start that conversation, Ron.
Okay, I remember this clearly. This was many decades ago. I did something called body psychotherapy, sometimes body oriented.
Was this while you were a student or after you began practicing?
After I was a student, yeah. I had some psychological issues myself, and I wanted to resolve them. And I got a hold of some information that persuaded me to try this body psychotherapy, which allows a person over a period of time to actually recover repressed early memories of one's life, even going back to infancy. Okay? So
and Ron,
that's what I did.
Just as an aside, and that's not quack medicine, that's just basic physiology. I think you had a phrase, the body remembers what the mind forgets.
Right. That phrase has been around before I said it. And it's a very effective approach to releasing early trauma. Literally, a person can recover, re-experience, and let the emotion flow. The body can actually release this pain, a lot of crying.
And what did you
tears.
discover, Ron?
Well, it took a series of sessions to do this. But I had no thoughts I was not aware of any thoughts or feelings about my circumcision when I started this therapy. But over a period of time, I started feeling fear. I started kicking my legs. I was crying. I was screaming. I wanted them to stop whatever they were doing. I didn't know what it was. Again, in the beginning stages. And over a period of time, I finally recognized they're circumcising me. And that's when I became aware of how horrible and harmful and traumatic this practice was for me. And it took me many sessions to go through this experience, little by little, releasing some more of the pain, some more of the trauma, some more of the fear, some more of the anger. And finally, after one session, I was walking out of the therapy room and I said to myself, I stopped. I said to myself, they're still doing this. And I vowed to myself, I must do something to help stop this practice.
Wow.
That's how I got started.
Wow. Anything you want to share with us? How your family, did you share this with your family? How did your family react to this?
Mixed feelings. My mother was resistant. My father, to my welcome surprise, said, if it hurts the child, we shouldn't do it.
Wow.
He was easy.
That had to be
very
very gratifying for you, just on a personal level, to have your dad acknowledge it like that.
It was.
So Ron, you're now writing another book about trauma. First, tell us about your well, I think you've written several books, but tell us about the book that I think this is going to show up backwards. Hold that book up for our.
Okay.
I started this broadcast, and it is backwards, ladies and gentlemen, because we're using the front camera. But tell us about this book, Ron.
Okay. I spent a few years writing this book because I had so much to say and was interested in learning so much about what circumcision does, why it's done, how it affects men, how it affects society. I mean, there's no doubt that circumcision contributes to a greater likelihood of a man being violent, okay? But we need more research. But again,
yes,
we know so much now. We know more than we need to justify stopping this practice. But again, that's going to take some courage on the part of some people, because it's so painful to recognize we have a tendency, and again, it's a human tendency, to want to keep this from our awareness. But let's have some more courage. Let's speak up. Let's communicate. Let's let prospective parents know the facts about this so they can make more informed choices. They're asking parents when they have a baby boy, do you want to sign this consent form? I'm sure many of you are aware of this. Well, this consent form is so distorted with information and missing important information. I contacted the hospital in Boston, which has the most circumcisions of any hospital in the city. I contacted them with a critique of their informed consent form that a parent is required to sign if they want to have a circumcision, and they ignored it. And I wrote about this in my book to show this is what the hospital tells parents, and these are the facts, and they're so different. So again, we got psychological problems here. We're doing the best we can, and we need compassion, and we need to keep putting the message out that circumcision is extremely harmful and traumatic, so we can protect the next generation of children from this trauma.
So, writing the book, how difficult was that to write a book about this issue? Did that bring up, I mean, I've written, it can be very painful writing.
Well, again, prior to writing the book, I had released my trauma. So I wasn't defending or protecting myself from my circumcision trauma anymore. I moved through it, and that's what body therapy can do.
And that's healing, isn't it?
It's very healing.
And more men would do it if they knew that.
Yeah, well, I urge them.
Every man would do it.
I urge them to go online and search body psychotherapy in your area. This can also be done by computer. Some people call it somatic therapy. So there's different approaches. Okay, let me move along. Now my focus is more broad with early traumas, and I founded another company called Early Trauma Prevention Center, and I do speaking and writing about a series of early traumas. And my website for this work is my name, RonaldGoldmanPhD.com. So I'm writing about early traumas because if people just knew more about the effects of very common American cultural practices, which are not practiced by most countries around the world.
Ron, let me interrupt. What about spanking? Well, I've got
there you go. I was going to get to that. That's what we
call spanking.
Well, we call it spanking, also more generally called corporal punishment. This is very harmful, and I've heard of people who believe they say, "Well, I was hit and I'm okay." Well, that's what they call lying to yourself. I'm going to be blunt about it. If you were hit, you're not okay, because it further disrupted the relationship between you and the parent that hit you. And it changes. What it does is we have a compulsion to repeat traumas on the next generation.
Why do you think that is, Ron?
That psychologically, that's how we're designed. If we're traumatized when we're children, we're more likely to commit that trauma should we have children.
What about piercing girls' ears?
Well, I'm not going there. That's compared to circumcision. My focus is on very serious early traumas. So, certainly, circumcised men, they tell their wives if they have a baby boy, "I want my baby boy circumcised." 80% of them, roughly, want their baby boys circumcised. Wow. So that's a very strong factor that perpetuates this practice in society. And again, it's because mothers and fathers don't know the negative effects of circumcision. So that's why I created the website, wrote the book, and continue to educate about other American cultural practices. Birth. Of course, you can't be here on this planet without being born, but in this country, most births are traumatic. I know it may be hard to listen to that, but here's a little example of that. 1/3 of American births are born by cesarean section.
We got an ambulance going by. Let's wait till this ambulance goes by us. So we can't even hear us a thing. Yeah. Okay, go on, Ron.
Okay, to repeat, 1/3 of American births are by cesarean section. That means these babies are born without going through the natural process of being born by themselves actually struggling to get out, and the mother is being aware and actually assisting them getting out. Just as a quick aside, when I was born, I had a lot of, again, I re-experienced my birth in my body psychotherapy. So when I did this re-experiencing, I was pushing and pushing and pushing while I was inside my mother, trying to get out to be born. And I couldn't get out. And then I'd rest. Then I'd try again, and I couldn't get out. I'd rest, I'd try again. Finally, after much pushing, repeated pushing, I finally got out. Okay, that's my re-experience of my birth in body psychotherapy. Now, here's a very interesting fact about this. I contacted my mother and said, I want to contact the obstetrician who was there for my birth. And she gave me his name and contact information. I contacted him and I said, please send me a copy of your notes on my birth. When he did that, and in the notes it said, my mother was put on, this is unbelievable, really shocking. My mother was put on general anesthesia.
Wow.
Before my birth happened in the hospital.
Wow.
So she was not even conscious
Good Lord.
of my birth. So I had to do it all myself.
Wow.
She could not help me be born. That, of course, has changed, and now they still give local anesthesia. Okay, but birth is a natural process.
Wow.
Can you imagine a chimpanzee getting local anesthesia to give birth?
Amazing.
I mean, this is not common in other countries of the world.
Yeah,
we do
Ron,
things differently.
just as an aside, that's an interesting point. I'd never really thought of it consciously, that the child being born is actively engaged in the birth process. Interesting.
That's right. I know that because I re-experienced it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So, okay, so again, I'm bringing attention to a series of early traumas. Birth is let me just, another aside fact here. In 1965, the rate of cesarean births in the United States was 4.5%. So it has exploded from 4.5% to 33% over a few decades.
When my daughter was born in the early 80s, I believe, because we did a lot of research, I believe the rate was around 25%.
Yeah.
So now it's up to 31%.
33, yeah, 1 out of 3.
33%, unbelievable.
Okay, so birth is often an early trauma. Circumcision, of course, is an early trauma. Then we do something where babies are isolated. We put them in cribs in separate rooms in this country. This is a common cultural practice. Okay, babies should not be isolated. This is what I call traumas by omission. There's traumas of commission, which is like circumcision, and then traumas of omission when we do not satisfy their needs. We don't do what's natural. We don't support the relationship, the bond between the mother and the baby. So when they're isolated, they further learn to repress their feelings, because otherwise, how can they survive emotionally? It's too painful for a baby to be lying in a crib alone for hours at a time. We have to stop doing that. Cribs benefit corporation and more profit for them. They never studied what's the effect. I'm sorry if I'm yelling here. I feel so strongly about this.
It does not sound like you're yelling. It's very noisy out here. Let me just tell our viewers, it is very noisy out here, ladies and gentlemen. So we do tend to talk louder just because you can't hear it. The microphone's not picking up, but it is very, very noisy with street traffic out here, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
Ron, let me follow up on something you said, because I think a lot of intactivists have speculated about this and made posts about this. Let's talk about the unique brand of male violence in the United States. And tell us your theory, what you're willing to state publicly, and what you think should be researched about male violence in the United States.
Well, again, we have the rate of violence here in the United States is multiple times the rate of violence in other developed countries, for example, in Europe. Okay, and this is the reason for my book. What we do here in response to violence is, well, maybe we should have more police on the street. Maybe we should do other things in response to violence. What we don't ask ourselves is, what is the origin of violence? Why do we have so many violent people, particularly men? And my work shows and studies show that when we're traumatized as infants and young children and abused, we tend to pass on the pain. We tend to become more aggressive. We have repressed anger. And for some people, they grow up in a withdrawal stage. They get very reserved and not unexpressive. That's one possible effect. But in too many people, they grow up with sensitivity to their anger, and they want to express it. And one way they express anger is to hurt other people, who basically have no connection or relationship with them. So they may get really violent, and they get guns. They're so easily available. So these angry men, again, are shooting strangers on the street and schools. It's in the news almost every day. Again, it's multiple times more common here than in other countries. And I'm saying that a very significant contributing factor is we have still a little over 50%, by some of the latest statistics, of baby boys are still being circumcised in this country. And here's an interesting fact. Aside from the United States, Muslims, who do this for religious reasons, and Jews, the circumcision rate in the rest of the world is less than 5%.
And that's all. I actually cite that statistic a lot of times from your website.
Yeah.
Ronald Goldman, ladies and gentlemen, author of Circumcision, The Hidden Trauma. Ron, I know that you provide professional services. How can people contact you personally?
Well, on the website, there's...
at circumcision.org.
Yeah, circumcision.org. There's a link to counseling and consultation. So they can click that and arrange for a phone call or sometimes a Zoom call, but that's the way to contact me around circumcision. And also, we also hope people donate. Oh, a very significant, we still have a case. We're suing Massachusetts Medicaid. When I say we, I have a couple of attorneys.
You, Peter Adler, Andrew Delaney.
Right. We have sued
Massachusetts. I think is in on that.
Well, no, he's consulting, but not an active in the case. So we've sued Massachusetts Medicaid because they pay in Massachusetts, and most states still do this in their Medicaid program. They pay for circumcision, which violates the regulation. There's a national regulation and state regulation that Medicaid payments shall only be for medically necessary circumcision. And get this, no organization and indeed no individual has ever claimed that male infant circumcision is medically necessary. Okay, so that's the fact. And so, and this is costing taxpayers in Massachusetts millions of dollars a year. So fortunately, we have a regulation in this state and possibly in other states where a collective group of taxpayers can get together and sue any state department or office if they're abusing use of taxpayer funds. So we won the first level case in what was called the Supreme Court here in Massachusetts. Then unfortunately, we went to what was called appeals court, and unfortunately, they did not have the courage to support our case. So they ruled to dismiss it. And so we have...
Just a few days ago.
Yeah, and so we have a final possibility of appealing to the Supreme Judicial Court, the highest court in the state. So we'll see what happens there.
And so, Peter Adler told me the other day that that appeal has, you have decided to file that appeal.
Yeah, we're working on our appeal right now. So we have to file that within maybe about 10 or 12 days. And there's no guarantee we're going to get heard.
Right.
But we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And it's very important that we have a record document of what's really going on here.
So, Ronald Goldman, put on your shrink's hat just for a minute. I'm going to wrap this up and continue the live just to talk to a few other people. But put on your shrink's hat for just a second, and because I know so many men who are just in despair, infuriated out of their minds when they become aware that their sex organ, part of their sex organ, was cut off. What do you say to those men, how to deal with their rage? Because it is, and I've seen it, it's blind rage, Ron. What can you say to those men to give them hope?
Well, first I say I have much compassion for you men, and what you can do on your own to start is allow yourself to release your feelings. Now, if you're living with other people or in a multi-family building, this potentially could disturb others. So I suggest use a pillow. Scream into a pillow. Okay, do this when you think it's most likely that you won't disturb anybody with your sound. Scream, let your emotion out, let the sound out, let your body move. Do it for as long as you're able, and then take a break. And if you do that on a regular basis, you'll be releasing more of the feeling. And of course, if you want to get some professional support, I'm not doing this on a long-term basis, but I will give a little bit of support, short-term support for men, because I want to provide much time as I can to write my book.
Right.
So, again, for one or two connections, you can contact me at circumcision.org. Otherwise, you can contact other people who do therapy and support.
Ron, we have heard of psychotherapists who gaslight men and tell them that they have to get over it. They're just imagining this.
Yeah. So if you're not sure, one of the first questions you would ask is, do you support men who want to deal with trauma about circumcision? And if you don't
make sure you get a sympathetic ear.
Yeah. And even ask for references. I mean, different websites have links to some of these people, so you can find them online. So I wish you well.
Dr. Ron Goldman, ladies and gentlemen, author of Circumcision, The Hidden Trauma. Ron, I'm going to reverse the camera, stay right there, and I'm going to let our friends see you standing here on the corner with Bloodstained Men and their friends. Thank you for coming out to join us, Ron, on the front lines of the struggle for human rights in the United States.
Glad to do it.
So let me reverse the camera, ladies and gentlemen, and
I'm just kidding.
Okay, we got that. Ron, if you hold up that book again, we can... So Dr. Ronald Goldman, ladies and gentlemen, author of Circumcision, The Hidden Trauma. And Ron, let me get your name tag. Circumcision Resource Center. And very easy to find. Ron has a treasured web address, circumcision.org. Imagine that. Circumcision.org. Thank you, Dr. Ronald Goldman. Dr. Ronald Goldman, ladies and gentlemen, sharing his experience and wisdom with Bloodstained Men and you on the front lines of the New England circumcision crisis protest. Ladies and gentlemen, this is day 7. I will cross the street. Thanks, Ron. I will cross the street and continue this live broadcast. Christina Love. There's Dula Cynthia. A veteran of Bloodstained Men Road Cruise.
It's been way too long. Way too long.
You want to say a few words? If you do, I'll reverse the camera so that I can get you on the microphone side.
I actually just did my own video and ranted a lot on that.
All right, well, let me. Now you got my interest because I want to hear some rants. Okay, there we go. Let's turn this way so we get the intersection behind us. Yeah, so I was, ladies and gentlemen, this is Doula Cynthia, and yeah, you got my attention. We need a rant.
Oh, I don't know if I still have another rant in me, but we did just see a pregnant woman walking up the hill to go to her doctor's appointment, tried to give her some information, and she ran away as fast as she possibly could. Shaking her head, going, I have to get to my doctor, I have to get to my doctor. I'm like, protect your baby from your doctor.
She wouldn't even take a card.
She wouldn't even take a card. Probably about 8 or 9 months pregnant. She's probably going to pop pretty soon, so. Yeah, they don't want the information. They absolutely do not want the information. It's so hard to get information into people's hands. They literally put their fingers in their ears and start going la 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 la.
We were just talking to Dr. Ronald Goldman about that, and he called it denial. He said it's a survival instinct.
Yeah, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's scary. So this hospital here, I actually was a patient here when I was a kid.
Wait, let's let this, there's an ambulance making some noise.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I've been to a lot of births here. I'm quite familiar with this hospital. And we protested out in front here a number of times too. So yeah, this is familiar territory.
I should tell our viewers, Doula Cynthia, ladies and gentlemen, she protests with Blessed Amen and David Atkinson here in Boston. Even when he's not on tour, they do protests around Boston.
Not as many as we used to. We got to get back into it. This might be the fire that lights underneath. But yeah, we're trying to get back into it.
Simon 10 Kate says, "Nice to see Cynthia."
Oh, hi, Simon.
And I think Simon was on a tour where you were.
Oh
on
yeah,
the
I've met him a number of times, and I talked to him on the phone. Miss you, Simon. That's awesome. That's so cool. But yeah. I'm so glad you guys are in town. It feels like the band's back together. Let's do this.
Cynthia, we were talking to Dr. Goldman, and again, I'm not trying to catch you off guard here because this is a touchy subject, but male violence in the United States. And he theorized that circumcision has to be having an effect on...
Absolutely.
On men.
Yes, absolutely. I am absolutely certain of that too. And I worked with babies. Like I did a number of years, probably over 1,000 babies in my lifetime. And I've seen the babies before and after circumcision, and they lose a lot of the light, a lot of the interest in the world. They just, as soon as they're circumcised, the light goes out of their eyes.
God.
They
that's heartbreaking.
They don't make eye contact with their mothers.
I can feel the wow.
And it's just absolutely abhorrent that they're still doing this to children.
How did you first become aware of this issue? Through being a birth worker?
Yeah,
attendant?
Well, I kept my son intact. He's 34, and so I've been against this for a long time. But
Sarah Black is watching. Sarah in Amarillo, Texas. Sarah and Charles hosted us for dinner, I believe. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, I kept my son intact, and then I started working as a birth doula later on. And I had...
So you kept your son intact before you knew the nuts and bolts of this controversy?
Yeah, I just knew it was wrong.
Did they try to talk you into it?
No, I had a midwife. I had a natural birth. I got the hell out of the hospital as fast as I could. So I literally went home when he was 3 hours old. So yeah, I didn't play that game even back then. But yeah, so but then in 2006, I had 2 parents that asked me questions. I was working as a birth doula, and I had kept a lot of their babies intact through just what I did know. But there was 2 questions that that were asked of me, and one was about what are the functions of the foreskin, and I was horrified to find out that I didn't know. And that's how I found Intact America and started doing my research down that rabbit hole. And then the other couple actually asked me about the studies in Africa, saying that it lowered the rate of HIV/AIDS, which I worked as a scientist from 1994 until 2005, and it made absolutely no sense to me that cutting off a body part would stop a virus. I mean, come on, seriously? This is ridiculous. And
it's preposterous.
And then
it shows how desperate the circumcision industry is, though, to create a mythology around it.
Yeah, and then I should say
perpetuate.
Absolutely.
Because they created the mythology a long time ago when they told parents that it would stop boys from masturbating.
Yeah, I know. And then I did the research on the numbers out of Africa, and I realized the studies are complete bullshit.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Blunt Boston talk.
Yeah. It's like,
The studies around it are utter bullshit.
yep. So do your research. Search PEPFAR. Look up PEPFAR. Find out the horrors of PEPFAR and how they used a clamp to circumcise African babies that was completely blown out of existence here because it caused so much damage, and they took these awful clamps and used them on African children.
And that's one of the American doctors that is on the circumcision gravy train. I think that's his clamp, his invention.
Oh, what, was it Mogan? Is it the Mogan clamp? I don't remember which
there's
clamp
a couple
it was,
of them they
yeah.
use.
But yeah, they damaged so many African babies they had to stop PEPFAR.
Vivi Mack, hello Vivi Mack. Tom, I think Tom will be seeing you sometime on this tour.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, I remember Tom. Hey, how are you? But
Well, thank you, Doula
Yeah.
Cynthia, and I will get back to talking to other people, but thank you for joining Bless the Men on the Front Lines, and I know you've been on the road crew for several tours, and there's always a spot for you on the road crew, Cynthia.
Awesome. Great to have you in Boston. The band's back together.
So let me reverse the camera, ladies and gentlemen. And there's David Atkinson. So the crew's been working hard while I've been talking to people. There's David Atkinson on the traffic island. Catherine Franklin out on that traffic island. There's Daniel Bryce. Thank you, Vivi. Thank you. And Vivi Mack, longtime supporter and participant with you and your family on the front lines. I know we've seen you in the Cleveland area. We've seen you at some of the regional and medical protests. Vivi Mack, ladies and gentlemen. Whole Mama Michelle, we are live on Facebook. Do you have a chance to talk to us for a few minutes, or are you just getting your sea legs?
I just got it, but I'm good.
All right, let me just, I'm going to reverse the camera to talk to you. So let me just, so this is Whole Mama Michelle, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook. Intact genitals are a human right, and she is just awesome. We're going to have to get you on a road cruise sometime, Michelle.
Yes,
let me,
my kids are in school next year, so.
let me reverse the camera. Did I get it reversed? It's hard.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah. So, Whole Mama Michelle, welcome to the front lines in Boston. I knew you'd be here. You've just you've been to New Orleans with us. I think you've been to a couple of Super Bowls, the medical conventions. What motivates you? Why do you care so much, Michelle?
Because babies can't speak up for themselves, and we need people to learn the truth about circumcision, and it stops when people learn the truth. So.
And how did you learn the truth?
I learned the truth. Well, my husband, before, when he was my boyfriend and we were pregnant with my first son, he was the first person who said to me that it was barbaric. And I remember thinking well...
Was that the first time you'd ever heard that?
Yeah, that was the first time I ever heard that, or anything negative about circumcision. And it really stuck with me. And I started to see more and more, he's really right. It is. It is completely unnecessary. And then I had my doctor, my OB, a lot of pushback from her. When I told her no, it was barbaric. She was...
Thank you.
She had a lot of pushback. She started asking at every appointment, told me it was my decision, not his. And I said, well, I really valued his opinion. And he's the father of this child, so I'm not going to do something to the baby that he thinks is barbaric. And I think because I said the word barbaric, she was really triggered as a performer of them. So she really pushed and pushed and pushed me to do it. And that was... she created
your
me.
midwife.
This is my OB. My second pregnancy, I had a midwife and never went back to the
Your
OB.
OB?
Yes.
Wow. So she really pushed hard.
Yes, and that's really what
Remember
created
some of the
me.
things she said?
Well, she told me it was cleaner. My son had a kidney issue, and
man.
she tried to use that. Luckily, we saw a urologist at Tufts that told us there is no risk of leaving his foreskin intact. There is no increased risk of UTI, and especially in relation to his kidney. He might have an increased risk because of his kidney, but it is of no relation to his foreskin. And removing his foreskin will not prevent that.
Thank goodness you got
yes.
an honest doctor.
Urologist, yeah, thank God. Because honestly, I I don't know what I would have done with just having my OB being so pushy and not having any other medical professional on my side.
So you left her in the dust.
Yes, I did.
Did she know why?
Oh, she knew. She knew. We talked about it. It was at my 6-week appointment when she asked, again, she asked the first thing she asked after I had him.
You knew
I
it
had
was a
my
boy
son.
at that point?
I knew it was a boy. It was the first thing I asked, even though I had told her no dozens of times. Then when he went to my 6-week checkup after having a baby, she asked to see his penis.
Wow.
I said no.
How did she say it?
She said, "Oh, can you take off his diaper and I'll check out the circumcision." First, she said, I was like, "You didn't circumcise him." She's like, "Let me see." I'm like, "No."
Wow. Holy moly.
No, and I told her right then, we won't be coming back.
There's something perverted about
Yeah.
these doctors and their obsession with boys' genitals.
It is.
And I've also heard some of them want to get in the diapers of girls too.
Yeah, no, they do. They do. I tell my friends, the female daughters, diaper checks, completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. I was subject to them as a child. My mother, I've talked to her about it, and she thought it was normal.
I've even heard I've heard reports, direct reports from moms that some of these. Let's wait a second.
Right by the hospital, so.
Some of these doctors, without being graphic about it, some of these doctors actually separate the girl's clitoral hood from her clitoris.
Yes.
The clitoral hood is attached to the clitoris just the way the foreskin is attached to the head of the penis, to the glands.
Yes.
And
there's also just other adhesions
who
that happen
teaches
with
them this stuff? What are these perverts
It's old school
teaching?
medicine. I swear, like they say that they were once taught that, but it's completely unnecessary. There are other adhesions that happen with girls. Just from being in a diaper, like some of the skin will seal together when it will break naturally on its own.
Well, we've
the
got
doctors rip them apart.
We have friends in the
Completely
UK. We have friends in the UK who tell us that at the well baby checkups in the UK, diapers are never taken off. They don't ask to take diapers off, and it wouldn't occur to anyone.
Yes, we actually.
And one friend told me if the doctor, she said that if the doctor asked her to take off her child's diaper, she'd call the police.
Yeah. We switched eventually when our first pediatrician as well was very pushy on like diaper checks, and that was my pediatrician growing up. And they were recommended to us by the hospital, but they were very invasive. We switched doctors when I had my second son. He's never taken my kid's diaper off once, not ever. Not even for the weight, nothing. It's really unnecessary, and only at my request at like a really bad butt rash, and still just looks at that, closes it back up. It is not normal for doctors to be basically checking your children's genitals.
And Michelle, you have protested across the nation with Bloodstained Men. What motivates you to travel to? You were in New Orleans with us. What motivates you to work that hard on this issue?
Well, it's these medical professionals to let them know that people are not going to sit down and take it. Most of my travel has been surrounding the medical conferences, the OBGYN conference and the American Academy of Pediatricians conference. And they need to know that we're not going to take this sitting down.
Good. Thank you, Whole Mama Michelle, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook, on social media, and I believe you're on Twitter too, aren't you?
I am on Twitter.
Are you on TikTok?
Not yet. I should get on TikTok though.
I got on TikTok recently, and it's a hotbed of intactivism.
Yeah.
Thank you, Whole Mama Michelle, because intact genitals are a human right, ladies and gentlemen. Intact genitals are a human right. I'm going to turn on my microphone and work the crowd a little bit. Steve Thompson is watching. We're in downtown Boston, ladies and gentlemen, here at Massachusetts General Hospital. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Daniel Bryce, working the crowd here. Daniel Bryce, how's it going out here? I saw you talking to a lot of people.
Oh, man.
Let me see if I can...
Oh, hold on, it went away. Maybe I can hit it. It's hard to see in the sun here.
It is, yeah.
And I don't know where the icons went.
Let me see here. I'm trying to reverse the camera, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're still live. Got to go in the shade here.
That's really weird. Where'd the icons go? Oh, there they are.
Okay, yeah, wait, hold on. Let me reverse it here. Yeah, you can see that. All right, so there we go. Daniel Bryce, let's go out here and stand here, and we'll get the that corner behind us. Let's go out to the curb here. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Daniel Bryce of Denver, Colorado. Daniel, this is your, I believe, your third tour with Bloodstained Men.
That is correct. Love it. Love it. Recommend it to everybody if you can get away.
Yes, yes. I should add, ladies and gentlemen, just contact me if you can take 2 weeks off to do a tour. Daniel Bryce, what are you seeing here in Boston today? I've seen you talking to a lot of people.
So,
you've been using amplifier, voice amplifier.
Yeah, we have so much traffic. We have so much pedestrians. We have doctors and nurses, medical staff. There's lots of places to eat lunch here. They're coming out. I just spoke with a gentleman and a lady. He was from Spain. She was from Colombia. And they were shocked to learn that Americans circumcised. Shocked. And they were giving me their support, saying that I'm doing the right thing. People will call us losers and whiners and crybabies and all that. They said, no, you're absolutely in the right. Circumcision it's disgusting mutilation. Now they want to talk. I tried to get them to go on the live stream, but they work at the hospital.
And where are they from? South America?
The lady was from South America, Colombia.
Yeah.
And the man was from Spain.
Well, we've had numerous European men and women who, when they first hear about it, they think it can't be true.
Yeah.
American doctors,
Yeah.
American doctors are actually circumcising boys wholesale in hospitals.
Yeah.
It takes them a bit. They have to do some research to actually believe it. That it actually is happening.
Yeah, they
It's
believe it
so-
because they see it here in the hospital. They were shocked. And I asked the man, I said, what would you say if somebody wanted to cut off your foreskin? He's like, no, never, no, absolutely not. That's crazy ridiculous.
It is crazy ridiculous. Daniel Bryce, thank you. We will talk to you again. We're going to be in Somerville, Massachusetts in a little bit this afternoon. This is day 7 of the New England Circumcision Crisis Protest. And Daniel Bryce, welcome to the front lines with Bloodstained Men. And I know it's very, very constructive work to feel that we are affecting change across the United States.
We are making change. We've
gotten a lot of media coverage.
Oh, the media is great. You know how many people see those media reports, read the news, watch the news? It just amplifies our message, exponentially. So, yeah, when we get media coverage, that makes the whole tour worth it.
Thank you, Daniel Bryce. I'm going to step over here in the shade. There's a corner here, ladies and gentlemen, because you literally cannot see the screen.
Find out why nature put it there. Find out why every mammal, male and female, born with a foreskin. Cutting it off only does harm. Nature knows best. Doctors know profits. Circumcision is a $2 billion a year industry in the U.S. The doctors want your son's sex organs so they can sell it to the highest bidder for cosmetics and anti-aging.
And ladies and gentlemen, Christina Love on the front lines with Bloodstained Men.
Can you do me a favor and send me the link to that video?
Christina, do you have a few minutes to talk to us?
I don't get on.
Or you want to keep working the crowds?
Should we go on this side?
Yeah, come on over here. So, Christina Love, longtime veteran of Bloodstained Men Road Cruise. This is your 4th or 5th tour with Bloodstained Men. Christina Love, we are day 7 of the New England tour, day 7 of 13. How you holding up?
I'm holding up. Been a little bit tired, but that's just from not getting enough sleep at night. But otherwise, I'm holding up great. This intersection is so energizing because we're literally 1 block away from where labor and delivery families, women go to give birth, and we've seen some very, very pregnant women walking past. They're not all receptive, but at least they can't help but hear some of our messages. One woman said, I get it, and I still kept talking because I was on the same meridian. I followed her there. But anyway, so just the amount of traffic and the amount of pedestrians and the amount of info cars I've handed out, like I was worried maybe we're going to run out, but I think we'll be okay. So I'm definitely energized from this intersection.
Thank you, Christina Love, and maybe you would be kind enough to carry this live selfie stick and go across the street with me. I'm going to work the crowds a little bit with my microphone and a sign.
Okay, sure. Just give me a second. I got it.
Christina Love, ladies and gentlemen, she's going to carry the live camera around a little bit because I want to get back to work. And I know that many of you enjoy these extended broadcasts. We're here in Boston, Massachusetts.
So this part is going to face you. And I should try to stay by your back.
Good morning, Boston. Good morning, Boston. We are the Bloodstained Men. We travel from city to city around the United States, warning the American people that circumcision is not medicine. Warning the American people that circumcision is cruel, brutal, barbaric, violent, child abuse. Warning the American people that doctors around the world refuse to circumcise boys. The doctors around the world condemn American doctors for circumcising our sons. The doctors around the world agree with us. Doctors around the world condemn circumcision because circumcision is not medicine, ladies and gentlemen, never will be. Friends, don't let friends circumcise. Friends, don't let friends circumcise, ladies and gentlemen, because circumcision is not medicine. We're here to warn you so that you can warn your friends. You can warn your neighbors and relatives and loved ones. Circumcision is barbaric child abuse, ladies and gentlemen, not medicine. Circumcision is not medicine, ladies and gentlemen, and never will be. Don't let a corrupt, greedy, unethical American doctor cut off part of your son's sex organ, ladies and gentlemen. Because friends don't let friends circumcise. We will warn you so that you can warn your friends, warn your neighbors, warn your relatives that circumcision is not medicine, ladies and gentlemen, and never will be. Don't let a corrupt, ladies and gentlemen. Circumcision is child abuse, ladies and gentlemen, not medicine. Thank you.
There's a speak pole right here. Remember, we're still on live. You know that? You want to talk to them?
I was talking, ladies and gentlemen, if you heard the part of the live broadcast where we were talking to Dr. Ronald Goldman, and I asked him what can men who are suffering from awareness, and particularly men who have just become aware of this outrage committed on their bodies. And he suggested that yelling into a pillow when you don't disturb your neighbors, yelling into a pillow. Well, I've gone one step further, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on a street corner in Boston with a microphone and telling the people of Boston, circumcision is not medicine, ladies and gentlemen, and never will be. Don't let a cruel, sir. Don't let a cruel, corrupt, unethical, greedy American doctor cut off part of your son's sex organ, ladies and gentlemen. Because circumcision is child abuse. Circumcision is not medicine and never will be, ladies and gentlemen. Doctors around the world agree with us. Doctors around the world refuse to circumcise boys, ladies and gentlemen. Friends, don't let friends circumcise. You can warn your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, and loved ones. Don't let a corrupt, unethical American doctor cut off part of your son's sex organ. Thank you. You can learn more on our website at bloodstainedmen.com. bloodstainedmen.com. And thank you, Christina Love, for doing duty with the camera.
You're welcome.
And there's Christina Love, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Christina. Raymond Rosa's watching. Che Adula is watching. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the Bloodstained Men do. This is activism in action on the streets of Boston, Massachusetts. Let's see if we can go over there and talk to David Atkinson before I wrap up this live broadcast. And this is David Atkinson, ladies and gentlemen, Bloodstained Men's planner, who actually lives in Boston. So I'm sure there's a certain satisfaction in protesting in your hometown. I'm going to reverse the camera, and we'll talk to David Atkinson, ladies and gentlemen. David Atkinson, how's it going today here in your hometown?
Very good. We have lots of people here joining us and lots of people talking to us, and it's a little bit windy, so I'm just struggling a little bit with these signs, but not too much.
And you always make a point of holding two signs, don't you?
Unless it's extremely windy, then I like a sign in each hand, that's correct.
So tell us about your decision to hold the protest on day 7 here at Massachusetts General Hospital.
Well, anyone who participates in or even condones the genital mutilation of children should be ashamed of themselves. So we are here to shame the people who are guilty and to make them feel ashamed of themselves so that they might, or their colleagues at least, might consider to do something else.
And you're blunt about that, David. You're blunt about that. There are some people who say, oh, you don't want to shame. You don't want to shame them.
You know, I was having an interesting conversation the other night with Daniel at dinner, and he said education is good. We want to educate people about the functions of the foreskin. But he also made the point that education is not the only way to change society's attitude. And it's not even sometimes necessary. So, for example, we don't need to educate people about the anatomy of the female genitals for everyone to understand that it's wrong to cut a little girl's genitals. And so what happens is that people right now feel ashamed of themselves if they cut little girl's genitals. And so
what's called female circumcision.
Yeah. And so there are many strategies that we can use. Education is definitely good for the people who are open to learning new things. Then they can learn about the functions of the foreskin. But possibly an equally important strategy would be shaming the perpetrators and making them feel unwelcome in society.
I like that. I like that. I like that. That's a powerful tactic, and I like your blunt language on saying it.
Yeah, I'm still thinking of the best way to still formulating the best
because
way to say that.
There is behavior that is shameful, and people should be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
And so shaming them is essentially not a manipulative technique, but an honest technique. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, we have four mornings this next week at various hospitals in Boston. And so we are trying to saturate this city. We have afternoons in other places around the city as well. But we're trying to saturate the entire city as well as the medical establishment of the city with awareness about foreskin and awareness that they are guilty in tampering with the genitals of children.
And David Atkinson, we are day 7 of the New England circumcision crisis protest. Where are we going to be this afternoon in just an hour or two?
So this afternoon we will be in Somerville, Massachusetts, which is a nearby city. It's just on the other side of Cambridge, which is just on the other side of the river right here. So it's a short drive for us, and we'll be at a big intersection in Somerville this afternoon from 2 to 4 p.m.
And you mentioned Cambridge, the home of Harvard University, where we have protested.
Yeah, we were there in 2015.
2015. Thank you, David Atkinson. We will talk to you again later today in Somerville.
You're very welcome. See you then.
David Atkinson, ladies and gentlemen, Bloodstained Men co-director, CEO. There's truck driver, gave us a honk of approval. I saw him give a thumbs up. Oh yeah, another thumbs up. Yeah, we get that a lot. Thank you, sir, thank you. He saw me over here filming and gave me a thumbs up. We get that a lot, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of truck drivers, and I've commented on it. It's just really wonderful, the number of truck drivers across the United States who support these protests. Well, that is my live report, ladies and gentlemen, from Boston, Massachusetts. Massachusetts General Hospital there in the background. It's a really large, occupies several city blocks all the way down there. That's the hospital, the main entrance is way down here. This red brick building is just one of the many numerous structures of Massachusetts General Hospital. You can see the traffic is heavy. And we are going to be in Somerville, Massachusetts. Let's see, it's so it's a little past 11:30. We're going to leave here at noon, and we will take a brief break and be back out on the streets of Somerville at 2 p.m. If you live in Boston or the Boston area, please join us in Somerville this afternoon. We've had a couple of local moms have come out here today and joined us, Whole Mama Michelle, Cynthia Dula. Ron Goldman has come out, Dr. Ronald Goldman. This live interview began with an extended, this live video began with an extended interview with Dr. Goldman. So if you are just tuning in, you're gonna wanna watch the beginning of this live broadcast. It will go, as soon as I finish it, I will post it up. And we interviewed Dr. Ronald Goldman for probably, it seemed close to half an hour, but it definitely was 20 minutes, I would say. So you will enjoy seeing that. So you want to rewind and go back to there, go back to that, to the beginning of this broadcast when I post it in just a few minutes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you from Somerville, Massachusetts later today. This is Brother K reporting from Boston, Massachusetts, day 7 of the New England circumcision crisis protest, part 1, part 2 coming up in about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa K. Thank you.